Special Agent Watson, have the lamb stop screaming.
Yikes. I think they have. I don't know. Maybe not after watching this again, but
yeah, whatever lambs you had put to bed, they're awake and they're not silent anymore.
no, they're no longer silent.
No, they're happy and they're not happy and they're screaming. Or maybe they're happy screaming. Who knows? We don't know. We've never been on a ranch in Montana.
No.
So we don't know. Hi guys. I'm Special Agent Jessie Drew, here with Special Agent Jeff Watson. How are you, Jeff?
I'm good. I'm excited to talk about this movie.
The movie we are talking about today, as we roll on with our blockbuster summer, is 1991's The Silence of the Lambs, directed by the wonderful, rest in peace, Jonathan Demme, and starring Jodie Foster, Anthony Hopkins. You guys know, because this is a classic. I'm just gonna get the blockbuster info out of the way right away. The budget for this movie was 19 mil, which for 1991 money, that's pretty good. That's pretty good budget. I don't know that they were expecting. I don't think anybody can expect what happened with this movie to happen. It's just, I think it's like a matter of like movie fate. It's like this movie was always destined to be what it became, but nobody could have predicted that when they were making it in like 1990 and back when they like acquired the rights and all that stuff. But okay, so for 19 mil at the box office, it totaled $272.7 million, 1991 money. So that's like $400 trillion today.
It's a lot of money.
It's a lot of money. And it became the 5th highest grossing film of 91 worldwide. And it became the 3rd and last film. Not that another movie couldn't do it, but it's hard to take all the major Academy Awards, the 5 major: Best Picture, Best Actor, Best Director, Best Actress, and Best Screenplay. It won all of them. And, that's not only, think about how many Academy Awards years there have been, and there's only been 3 films in total that have taken all 5 that have had that streak. And then add to it that this is considered a horror film. It's the only horror film that's ever, that's probably ever going to take it like that. I think I think Get Out had the best chance of really sweeping, and it didn't. Racist Academy Awards. What did I say? Listen, people, we're people of color. Okay. He's Black. I'm Spanish. We're going to call it out. This is what it is,
That's right.
But yeah, so Jonathan Demme, I want to go back to him because he's one of my most favorite directors. Jeff, have you seen any other of his movies that you know of?
I probably have, but I just don't know right off. So if you give me a couple, I'm pretty sure I have.
Well, he directed Something Wild, which was an 80s movie with Melanie Griffith and Jeff Daniels, like a young Jeff Daniels, and Ray Liotta, which is amazing. It's a lot of fun, and it's kind of 2 movies in one. I really think you should watch it. I think everybody should watch it. He's a really good director. And he adds a really it's always like there's like this lovely flavor in all of his movies. Even in Silence, there's something
Hmm.
like lovely about it. And I don't think it's just like the cinematography. As he worked with Tak Fujimoto a lot in his career. um, I don't think it's just a cinematography. I think it's something of his personality. He was a real sweetheart. And the reason I'm talking about him, like, you know, I kind of knew him, was that he actually had a big hand in my local art cinema, the Jacob Burns Film Theater. He was on the board, and he used to have these like showings of movies that he'd curate, you know, so it'd be like, you know, like, I don't know, like every Sunday afternoon or something like that. I don't remember, but and they did a huge like memorial to him when he passed away. He lived really close to where I live. I just also grew up like he directed the movie Married to the Mob.
Okay.
And when I was little, that movie was like my life, you know. Michelle Pfeiffer and Matthew Modine, I was
Yeah.
just all over it. Um, and then I just always heard about him, that he was a really kind soul. You know, I met Matthew Modine when I was in high school. He had nothing but nice things to say about Jonathan Demme. It was just, you know, just, I don't know. I hate when like really super talented people get taken from us.
Yeah.
Plus, like, but like they were good people. Because we have like, I mean, we have a treasure trove, right, of like talented people who are, you know, DICK heads, you know,
Yes.
and just total scum. But you know, the ones that are actually like good people, you know, I don't know. It's kind of hard,
Yeah.
but we still have his work. And Silence, you know, along with like Philadelphia, and you know, one of the some of the louder highlights, more bright, you know, the ones that went really mainstream. And this movie was um, not like I like I said before, like not only I don't think they could have really have anticipated how huge it would become, but also, I mean, I don't know. It seems like an unlikely grouping. What do you think, Jeff? Like,
Yeah. I mean, am I surprised that it has the cult following and is in the status that it's in? After you watch the movie, no. But on paper, it's like, you kind of don't know what to expect, and you don't know if it's going to work, honestly. So I mean, I remember the first time I saw this many years ago, I was just blown away and terrified. But upon watching it this time, I was blown away, but at how masterful this was done, given the subject matter. So
totally agree. Totally agree. There was something different watching it this time versus like the 19 or 20 other times I've seen this movie, as I've watched this movie a lot since I was young. This movie was one of the reasons I wanted to be an FBI agent for reals, like for reals, for reals. And but yeah, when I was watching it, I have to jump. I'm gonna make a you know, a light speed jump to the end. That last scene, I think if anyone else had done it but him, I think that it could have come off kind of corny. Like, you know,
yeah,
Lecter's really making a phone call to Clarice, you know, to kind of like hint that he's going to, you know, kill someone. Like, I don't know, like from a little island in the Caribbean, wherever they were, you know. But it, he pulls it off. They pull it off. It's everybody like does their part. And when when the camera follows Dr. Lecter out of the little, like, you know, open air cafe that he's calling Clarice from, he puts on his hat. I mean, Anthony Hopkins deserved that award. He's amazing.
oh yeah,
Look, just the way he puts on that hat is like, I'm like, I could only hope to put on a hat that cool. You know what I mean?
yeah, yeah,
Right? Like, what's up? But yeah, he like puts on that hat and he just starts following Dr. Chilton anonymously, like in the crowd, and he knows what's going down, and Dr. Chilton is like the terrified mouse and he is the cat. And it's just like the cinematography is not only beautiful, but it's like the camera, the fluidity of how it starts like pulling back so that you see how like he can blend in a crowd and no one will know that he's there.
Yeah.
And you don't know what's gonna, I mean, you know what's gonna happen, but you don't know how or when, and that's terrifying.
Yes.
That's clever. Like what you were saying, like you kind of like appreciate the little strokes of genius like over and over again. I don't know. Did you have a moment this time when you watched it that kind of like you were like, oh wow?
This is probably not a scene that many people. Maybe I don't know. I don't want to say that. Maybe people do talk about it. I don't know. But you remember the scene where Clarice and I forget her name.
Ordelia.
Thank you. Mm-hmm. Are talking near the end, and they're figuring it all out and piecing it together, and they're doing these tight shots on their faces, and it goes, when Clarice speaks, it's on her, and then Ordelia, it goes on her, and just that, I don't know why that stood out to me so much, but just capturing that moment as if you're sitting there having that conversation and you can flip back and forth and be the other person in that moment was just so cool to me. So that really stood out to me. And then obviously the cinematography, the pacing of it, I think doesn't get enough credit because it's paced very well and there's always something happening. You just have to pay attention. Mm-hmm. So yeah.
Totally agree with you. That tension, tension of that conversation that they're having and how Ardelia is like, she gets it. Like she's right there with Clarice, she's like, I get it. I see what's going on too. Like, let's work it out. And Clarice is all like, kind of like, at one point she's like, it's over or whatever. And she's just like, no, like, let's talk about it, and then like you said, the rhythm of going back and forth kind of adds to this like heightened tension, right. And they're figuring it out and it's like right there. And she keeps saying like, he said, everything I needed was right here in this file. And she can't grasp it. And I mean, Ardelia is a great unsung character. I feel like, I could have used more Ardelia. What do you think? I could have used
Yeah. And I want to talk about something as we go forward, or maybe I can bring it up now. I don't know. But as a fan of this movie, I don't know if you checked out the CBS series Clarice.
I haven't. No, I haven't. I'm too scared to.
Oh my God. Like it really dives deeper into both. And the primary focus is on Clarice, obviously, but you get a lot of Ordelia.
She's in it? Like she's a character in it?
Yeah, like it goes back to, right after everything happened in this movie.
Oh, so they're already graduated.
They're already okay. Right, exactly. So they're already graduated, and then we go forward, and my goodness, it's a great show. From what I've heard, they canceled it, which sucks. But there's talk about bringing it back on Paramount Plus. So I'm hoping that's the case. But the show, like if you're a fan of this movie, the show is just spectacular.
And is it just as like kind of like, well, almost just as well crafted?
Yes.
It doesn't feel like TV kind of meh.
Not to me.
Okay. No, I trust you.
Every episode feels like a sequel. Like it feels like you're getting sequels to the movie. I mean, obviously they're different people playing those roles, but I honestly, it's such a good show, and yeah, I mean,
I have to watch that. Okay, all right. If you're recommending, I trust.
Yeah, and I will say they don't hold out on the gore and stuff either, which I find very interesting. Like it's not like over the top, but I mean, you see stuff. I mean, it's it's there. So just a forewarning.
Okay, I've been forewarned, but I want to check it out. I was sort of like curious it looked cool, but I was like, you know
Mhm.
what, I can't, because if it's not any good, I'm gonna get angry. It's just, I mean, look, we're movie fans. We're not, I mean, we're horror movie fans, but we're also like, movie fans.
Mhm.
And so these things upset us, like, or satisfy us or make us happy, like, so this is where we live, people. I'm not making any apologies. I'm just explaining. Um, cool. So I would see, I always felt like I would have loved to hear a little bit more about Ardelia. I understand the movie's got a lot. It's stuffed,
Right.
It doesn't feel stuffed, but it like one more half an inch and you'd be like, okay, that's enough. You know what I mean? Really enough. But I think all the characters are amazing. They're all well acted, and I was watching, and Anthony Held, I think it's Healed or Held, I'm not sure how to pronounce it, the man who plays Dr. Chilton, who runs the
Yeah.
Baltimore, home for the criminally insane or whatever it is. He's so awesome. He is so, like, because he plays like gross and skeevy and annoying and like malintentioned so well,
Yes.
and I just, every time I've seen this movie, Dr. Chilton gets to me and I get pissed off. I get pissed off for Clarice, like for the way he treats her. I get pissed off for, ruining the ruse that they're running, the scam that they're
Yes.
running. I get pissed that he's so like nasty and egocentric, but he's also like really interesting. It's so interesting how much of that character's ego plays into what goes down at that hospital. Even just the choices of how he speaks to the orderlies, like when he's laying on Hannibal's cot, with Hannibal in like the, whatever it's called, the like the mummy thing with the
Yeah.
hockey mask on his face, and he's like, they played you, like you totally got played. There's no deal for you. And he's like, and he doesn't address Barney, the orderly, as Barney.
No.
He just says like, get out of here for a minute.
Yeah.
That's it. And I'm like, if you weren't like paying attention, you'd be like, wait, who did he just tell to get out of here for a minute? Was he talking to Hannibal or was he talking to Barney? Because the
Yeah.
way he says it is so dismissive. And then Hannibal like just like looks at Barney, with this thing like smushed up against his face, and he's just like, Barney, and I just think that, like, and Barney looks half terrified, half kind of like, I gotcha. Like, well,
Yeah.
I wanted to tell you before I forget, because I know I will forget. I was watching. Okay, so I had gotten Silence on the Criterion Edition on Blu-ray like months and months ago, and I had yet to crack it open because
Okay.
there's just a million reasons, but I hadn't. So the opening went today, and I watched it, and they have 38 minutes of deleted scenes, and I didn't get to watch all of it, but I watched a good amount. There are some really interesting scenes with Barney that like patches over some sort of like missing links there. Cause like we go from like them all being pissed off about this fake offer that was made, by Jack Crawford and Clarice, to like all this, like, then the Tennessee whatever bureau or whatever, the federal who knows who takes over, and
Yeah.
they make the offer to him, and he goes to meet with Senator Martin, and she just like Clarice just shows up there, and you got to remember, like, like, yeah, there she's at Quantico, she's at DC, but she's got to go out to Tennessee. I mean, I know it's not very far, but it's still a hike.
Right.
And she shows up and gets in to see Lecter, and she's got his drawings. And you just kind of, I mean, as an audience member, right, you piece it together in your head, like, okay, well, she somehow got his drawings. She's FBI, she can get his
Right.
drawings. She got his drawings and like whatever. But what we see in the deleted scenes are like her talking with Jack Crawford, being like, what do we do now? Like, we're like SOL with this case, like, and we're off the case basically, but that like he's going to mess around with them, but he was telling me the truth. What do we do? Like, how do we continue our investigation. And Jack Crawford's like, we can't go back to school. You're like a hair away from getting kicked out anyway. And thank you for your help. And she's like, no way. I got to talk to Lecter. I'm going to go talk to Lecter. You can't, but I can. And he tells her, bring him something, and he'll talk to you. So the next scene is her like pulling up to the hospital, like just outside the hospital. Barney's in his car in like lay clothes, and he hands her like that tube of Lecter's drawings, and then she just takes off and goes. And then, you know, we see her and when she goes to see him in the cage. And like, I don't know, I was just like, I like seeing the deleted scenes just because I'm a nerd, but like I'm sure you are. If I am, I'm sure you are, if not worse. Like, but like I like these interesting jumps. Like you get to see with Barney. I don't remember. I know there's a scene out there, and I don't remember if it's like in some cut or if it's a deleted scene. I know there's a scene where, or maybe I'm just remembering the book because I've read the book a few times.
Okay.
But there's a scene where Lecter talks to Barney, and he's like, you take care of yourself. And like Barney's like saying goodbye to him. And like when he's getting on the plane, no, this happened. I know I saw this with my eyes, with not my reading eyes, with my movie eyes. And he's like saying goodbye to him. And it's kind of emotional, like not too much, but a little bit. And I mean, this guy's been guarding Lecter for how long did he say he'd been in there? Like 8 years? Yeah. So he's been guarding him for 8 years and like, you know, having to deal with Chilton, the both of them, you know. So he says like, you know, he's saying goodbye and he's like, good luck, sir, whatever to Hannibal. And he's like, Barney, you've always been a gentleman and I will never forget it. And I'm like, boom, he's never going to come after Barney, but he's going to come after Chilton because Chilton was a jerk. Okay, so that's what happens when you're a jerk in life, people. Okay, you get bad things happen to you. I said it. My dad always says in Spanish, ¿te diste cuenta? And that's kind of like, see what happens, but like with like a little like, told you. Yeah, that's the inflection. Like that's what you told you. Like there was one time where it's like this lady had kind of done him wrong, you know, and and she got married to some other dude instead of my dad. And the guy, like, whatever, I think he got sick, you know, and he passed away. I mean, my dad had no beef with the guy. He didn't know him, you know. Right. But my dad told me this story, and he's like, ¿te diste cuenta? And I'm like, Daddy, that they passed away because the woman jilted you? Like, that's crazy. What are you talking? He was like, I'm just saying. He was like, I didn't say that. I'm just saying. I was like, what?
Hey.
So I'm like, I know. I kind of, my dad's real funny like that. But yeah, I was just kind of thinking like, it's weird. And it got me thinking about, I want to ask you something. Mm-hmm. You know how when she finds the severed head at the yourself storage, right?
Yes.
And she like races over to see Hannibal to talk to him. And there's the TV set there with like the televangelist, like, you know, and he's like, oh, you know, Dr. Chilton gets his kicks. When you leave, this will be turned up to like full volume just to try to bother me. And I mean, so much in this movie is significant. You know, I feel like, because I was thinking about how, like, he gives his sort of absolution to Clarice and to Barney. I mean, you don't see it in this, you know, in the regular cut of the movie, but he does. It's kind of like saying, like, don't worry, I'm not going to come after you with all my wrath and, you know, with all the evil and stuff. But it's kind of like that almost sounds like, it almost sounds like a godlike decision or a godlike, you know, figure to say, like, I'm going to let you live. Mm-hmm. You're not going to die. Like, I'm going to let you live. I'm not going to kill you. That's kind of like a God thing. But he wields as much power on Earth. But really, but then if you think about what he did to those cops in Memphis that he killed, he like flayed one and had him strung up like an angel. But
Yeah.
that's pure evil what he did. So it's like, what is it? It's easy to say, duh, he's just evil. And yeah, he is evil, duh. But like the higher question is like, but what is it that like the movie gives him such grace? The book describes him and stuff, and he's interesting for sure. He's super genius and all this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But like to depict it on screen is something else. And the movie gives and Anthony Hopkins gives like Hannibal Lecter like this real grace about him.
Yeah.
I don't know. What do you think about his character in general? And like, it's so nuanced, but I'm like really curious about like what you think about that.
Yeah, it's crazy because even hearing him say that Chilton would turn it up just to annoy him, it's almost as if he feels like he's in competition with God. Like he has his mission, he has his things that he does, and it's counter to what typically happens, especially for people of faith. I think I think more than anything, he kind of sees himself as judge, jury, and executioner for a lot of people. And I think that's the vibe that I got, because, ultimately, if he deems you worthy of his wrath, or, and the unfortunate person that will deal with it, he's not only judging you, he's carrying out your sentence, and deciding that, but he's also, in a lot of cases, the person that's going to end it all for you. So that's kind of how I see it. I see it as like saying it's evil is too easy, in my opinion.
Yes, that's what I meant before. Like, yeah, like it's obvious it's evil, but what else is it?
Yeah, it's almost like the way he carries himself is almost regal. So you kind of get those vibes too, where he feels like he's on this throne of power, and he has the ability at any moment to just unleash his power, whether that's mind games with people, whether that's the thing, what was his name Mings, yeah, the thing with Miggs. It's like, that was crazy. So it's like he has all this power and he can just wield it whenever, and people can't stop him. Even with Clarice, I came to the point, and I wanted to ask you this too. Do you feel like she it was more than her just trying to solve a case? Like, and do you think, where do you think of their relationship? Because I feel like she kind of took the bait too. It was a mutually beneficial relationship, but do you think there was more there for her?
Like in terms of her relationship with him, or just in general?
With him.
With him, they had a really interesting relationship that I kind of tried to pay more attention to, like closer this time. Mm-hmm. And like, I thought some of the funnier parts of the movie actually were when, like the one part that like, makes me giggle like every single time, is when he says to her, like, when she's like, no, I came like on my own because I wanted to. And he's like, people will say we're in love, like, yeah. And I think that's hysterical. Yeah. And I think like that part gets to the heart of their relationship. It's like this odd kind of friendship where you can goof with someone in the middle of like a crisis. Like she's there because it's a crisis, and she knows that he was being honest and he can really help, and like he knows that, like, I was trying to think, like, what is he getting from her? Like, why is he so desperate to know about her? But I'm like, that is his nature. He's talking about like what's Buffalo Bill's nature. Like that's his nature. Like he was a psychiatrist and a very successful one, you know,
Right.
for so long. He likes to get to know people and their inner demons. Like that's what gives him purpose, you know, besides, you know, killing, you know, and I think that he's so brainy that
Yeah.
that is like his purpose. Like he can't separate both. Like it's got to be both. So I think that's what she provided to him, was kind of a chance to be like a human being again and serve his purpose. Now that I'm like just kind of talking it out, but like you said, I think it's like their friendship, or they're like, what is it called? Like the uneasy alliance. And for those
Yeah.
of you who are not watching the YouTube channel, I'm doing air quotes. But like that uneasy alliance between the two of them, I mean, he gets in trouble because she comes around. She gets in trouble because she doesn't get what she needs to get from him in totality. You know, it's like they're both kind of getting in trouble for each other. They're both kind of know that the other one is holding something they really want, you know, but they're
Yeah.
trying to make it last as long as possible because they know that they can't really have a real friendship. So this is going to be over like sooner than later. So I think it's kind of that. I think it's like they have this like undefinable friendship, because who like really, because you see her kind of cop an attitude with him
Yeah.
at times. Like when she's making the offer to him, she's like, you know, take it or leave it, like toots, you know, and like who's gonna talk to him like that? But she like kind of doesn't ever forget that he's a killer, you know. She
Hmm.
doesn't ever forget that like this man has like, you know, a body count on his back, you know, like, and he can't help but take digs at her, like how people like take digs at like the cops, you know, like
Hmm.
criminals don't like the police, they don't like law enforcement, you know, so they'll take digs at them. Like he's always making fun of her shoes. What the hell is that about? You know what I mean?
Right.
Like it's him making fun of a cop, you know, like,
Right.
and teasing her that she's like you said, he was kind of carries himself like royalty, you know. Well, she's kind of like a peasant to him at first, you know, and so they have this weird like it's like they're working out like each of them is like
Yeah.
working out a bunch of problems that they have with society in
Yeah.
general on each other, you
Yeah.
know. And and they know that the other one is has like a key, you know, that they each need. So I think their friendship, I call it a friendship, you know,
Hmm.
even though I don't think Clarice would ever consider like any murderer or any criminal her friend. But you
They're
know, and
friends.
yeah, they're friends. Like, you know, she brought him the drawings. Like Jack Crawford didn't tell her go get his drawings because they're really precious to him, so obviously they'll have sentimental value. She knew to go get the he just said, and he even suggested, he was like, you know, I brought so like a fake name of a killer once, like I brought him um a big tub of my wife's banana pudding, and he talked to me all night, so bring Hannibal something. She could have
Right.
brought him, she could have stopped and got him some, you know, Cozy Shack rice pudding, but she brought him his drawings. She got Barney to come, you know, it's like the whole thing. It's like, so even though she's doing it like as like a trick or whatever, or as like a
Hmm.
ploy, she's still doing it.
Still doing it.
She's still doing it. You know, she's getting her friend his drawings.
That's
So
it.
you're done, Clarice. You're done.
Yep.
Your best friend is a serial killer, Clarice. But he plays, and Anthony Hopkins. I don't like the whole romanticizing of serial killers, but as a fictional character, I think it's okay to go there. He plays a
Yeah.
really cool person, like in this movie.
He
Like, you know,
does.
he's man, he's really good. I
Yeah.
I have you ever seen the hell is it? Oh, Manhunter?
Oh yeah.
Okay. Brian Cox's performance as Hannibal Lecter. I'll give you my thoughts on it in a minute, but what's your take on Brian Cox's Hannibal Lecter? So I think it's fair to talk about it, like, you know.
Yeah. I thought it was good, honestly. Like I mean, I never thought that anyone else could do that like Anthony Hopkins. And I mean, he played it very well. I mean, the show was incredible, but he played it incredibly well.
I thought the same thing. It's like, I had never seen Manhunter. What was that movie, like 84, 86, something like
Yeah,
that? I was really small then, you know what I mean? So,
yeah,
and then having seen Silence a million times, I finally got to seeing Manhunter, and I thought the same thing. I was like, let's see how this guy does it. I mean, I know Brian Cox from like a million other movies, but like,
right.
I thought Jeff, for a while, I really thought that he played the better Hannibal. I really did. That was my opinion for a while. After I saw Manhunter, I was like, wow, he should have gotten an award too,
He
and
should
it's
have.
a shame because he did a really excellent job. He brought out that character in a totally different way, but in like a really smooth and scary way. Because the thing is that with Anthony Hopkins is that I feel like for me, and maybe for you, I don't know, but you tell me, um, I kind of have to keep reminding myself how that he's like a scary person. Like he's scary smart, but like but we only get one scene where he's being like where he's doing what he does best, you know what I mean, where he's killing people.
Yeah,
And so we don't have you just have your own imagination to bank on to know how scary he is. But I just feel like it's not a scary performance through and through. It's chilling, but it's not scary. Um, and even when he's murdering those two officers that are like guarding him, it's like not necessarily scary. It's like almost elegant, which I know they did that on purpose, but it's like it's
hmm,
kind of wild. It's like the aftermath. I think was like scarier. It's
yeah.
always the aftermath, but like I don't know. What do you think? Like, what are you thinking?
I thought it was a very chilling and disturbing performance. And going back to the scene where he does what he does to the police, um, even when he's using the whatever baton or whatever it's called,
Yeah,
the way he's swinging it, and I got this thought, it's almost as if it's a conductor.
I knew you were gonna say
There you go.
that.
It's
I'm
like
like thinking
it's
in my
like
head. I'm like, you're gonna say it.
yeah, like it's almost as if he's a conductor,
Mm-hmm.
and there's a rhythm to the strikes, and it's that for me. It's like he's done this so many times that he's worked it out to an art form to him. Like it's his art form.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was. I'm glad that you picked up that I was going to say
I knew
conductor.
it because I thought of it too. And I was like, he's going to say it. He's going for it.
I went for it.
Yes. Um, I mean, I feel like we could go on and on and on about this movie because it gives so much. This is a movie that really gives a lot to its audience. And it doesn't treat you like you're dumb and you're not going to pick up on things, but it also doesn't make things so like blindingly esoteric that you're like, wait, what? Like
Hmm.
I have to watch that one part like 5 times to understand what just happened.
Right.
The perfect piece, I think the piece that showcases what a master Jonathan Demme and his whole team, were on this film is how they do the trick ending without having it feel like it was like a trick ending. Like it's not like M. Night Shyamalan like trick endings, but it is a trick ending that you
Right.
get. And spoiler alert, but come on, this movie is like how old? Oh, it's 30 years old now. We're on its 30th anniversary. So
Yeah.
if you're a horror fan and you haven't seen Silence of the Lambs, stop what you're doing. My God.
Like
go
that
go
need
fire up your Blu-ray player or your DVD
that
player.
that needs to be the next movie that you watch.
Yes,
Period.
please.
If you haven't.
Um, yeah. I just I can't even if if you haven't seen it. If you haven't seen it, get fired. 'Cause I can't. Um, all right. So what was I saying?
You were talking about how they pulled the trick ending, but it didn't feel like
Right. It
the trick
doesn't
ending.
make, yeah, it doesn't make, it makes you feel like satisfied and scared, which is, I think, two things that are hard to come by
Yes.
simultaneously, but you feel scared. Like I felt legit scared. This movie, I again, I can't keep stressing how many times I've seen this movie, like in its totality and its entirety, like so many times. And I paused it to go use the bathroom. I come out of the bathroom and my son is standing like outside the door, and I jumped so hard and I got really mad. Like, you know, when you get like spooked and you get pissed, like
Yeah.
I got really pissed. And I was like, what are you doing standing there? You're, you know, don't ever do that again.
Yeah. Don't do
And
that.
no, and like my husband was like, you know, not just outside the door, but like kind of like on the edge, and he was like blowing bubbles. And I'm like, what are you, the hell are you guys doing? And they were like trying to like surprise me, not scare me. But I'm like in the middle of watching this movie for like the 26th time, but I'm like I didn't even realize I was on edge. But when I just, and that's my son. I mean, I love him more than life. And you know, standing right
Right.
there. He wasn't doing anything freaky. He was just standing
He's
there
just standing
quietly.
there.
And I just jumped and was like, ah! Like, what are you crazy? Are you trying to kill me? I think I said, are you trying to kill me?
I've got to ask you this though, because we haven't talked about it yet,
Oh,
and I want to talk
we're in
about.
trouble.
No, tell me what you thought about the performance of the character of Buffalo Bill.
Oh man, you went there.
I went there.
Buffalo Bill. Um, the actor who plays him, I read an interview with him really early this morning or really late last night. I don't remember. I'm sorry. I'm just like pausing because it has taken me like years that today when I watched the film today, um, and I have always, since 2008, I have had to fast forward through the big scenes with Buffalo Bill, with Ted Levine. The
Mm-hmm.
actor is Ted Levine. Um, I have seen him pop up in other movies that I've seen and had to stop the movie and can't watch the movie. Anybody that even sounds like him with his voice, because he's got a distinct voice, you know, like I've had to, nope, can't do it. That song that plays, it's called Goodbye Horses by Q
Mm-hmm.
Lazarus. When he's doing his dance,
Yeah.
is a no-go, is like a no-fly zone. It's on a few of Jonathan Demme's soundtracks because he's I think he was friends with the band, so he always
Mm-hmm.
stuck that song in his movies, and it's like a no-fly zone. But um, he did an amazing job. I mean, to scare someone, that's a fictional character, and to scare someone like me, I'm sure I'm not the only one who's had an adverse reaction to his character in the movie. You've got to be really dedicated. And what I read about him and him doing this character was that his audition was really terrifying, and that's why they hired him. And um, that he like went and like talked to John Douglas, who is like the, you know, criminal profiler and at the FBI. He just like really got into it full like 360 degrees, you know, like everything. He
Yeah.
was the one who wanted that dancing scene in the film and fought for it because it wasn't in the screenplay. um and he just felt like it really would showcase what this killer was about in a way
Right.
that nothing else in the movie really had. And so I was like, wow, it's got to, I mean, you've really got to be dedicated to your craft. I give him a lot of respect. I can't even with him. Today was the first time since
Yeah.
2008 that I have been able to watch the movie in its like without fast forwarding through his scenes, um, where he, you know, he abducts Catherine and when he is dancing in that room. I was, it's just too much. I had a nightmare. I just remember this. I had a nightmare in 2008. The next day, it was so bad that the next day I was still crying and shaking. I went to work and I was like, in good health then, like good mental health and stuff. But I was, still a sensitive person,
Yeah.
and I just, the whole day, I couldn't shake it. I mean, it's 8 hours, after the fact, and I just still couldn't shake it. And I was like, I was like, oh my God, what if I can ever watch that movie again? I was like, maybe whatever, don't even worry about it now. And it worked out,
Yeah.
So what about you? What did you think of, because that's he didn't, I don't know. He was, I hate when people say this, but I think he really was a revelation. Like, people say like, oh, they're a revelation.
It's a
Like,
revelation.
I hate that so much. But Ted Levine, you are a revelation. Okay, because you did that amazing.
Oh
I feel
my
like I was
God.
watching a for real serial killer and what it's like, like to be like a fly on the wall when they're doing their gross things. What did you think?
Yeah, it's one of the most disturbing performances, and you get a couple in here.
Mm-hmm.
It's one of the most disturbing performances I've ever seen in a film, and that's saying a lot because it's a character that sticks with you. Unfortunately, um, it's also it's an iconic character,
Mm-hmm.
and it's because of how dedicated Ted Levine was to it. Like you said, all the things you mentioned. But for me, it's so terrifying seeing him in action.
Mm.
Seeing him, like even the scenes where he's sewing and there's nothing else going on, that's terrifying. Hearing his voice, terrifying. Um, the end, near the end, where Clarice comes to his house, and you figure out that, I mean, you figure out that, hey, she's going into the lion's den. Everyone else is in the wrong place. That was done.
Perfect. That was the twist,
That was it. And it's like, okay, this is going to get terrifying. And one of the scariest scenes that for me anyway, and I watch a lot of messed up crap. Um, but one of the scariest scenes for me is when Clarice is in that room after she's passed through and he's using the night vision and she has no idea where he is, and you get those glimpses of him using it. It's just terrifying.
They knew in making that movie, it doesn't have to be anything more complicated than just your fear of the dark.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. She can, she's grasping the wall behind her. She doesn't know what's in front of her. She's blinded with the darkness, and he is right there. Her worst fear is literally standing right in front of her. She
Right in
doesn't know.
front of
And
her.
that, what's more simple and yet more like primal and fearful than that? You know what I mean? Like, that's playing hide and go seek in the dark. It's terrifying.
Mm-hmm.
I can't even play hide and go seek even as a child. I used to get really scared. I'd always get a knot in my stomach, so I didn't like it. I was
Yeah.
like, I like give myself up because I feel like, oh, I can't take this
I'm
anymore.
done. I'm
I'm done.
done.
Yeah, like that's why. Well, I didn't really like to play, and that's one of the reasons. Playing always gave me knots in my stomach. It's like, why does everything have to be so scary? Like, but that's because it's like, your primal, your subconscious, your primal urges. What is, like I said, what's more terrifying than you can't see what's in front of you.
Right.
And the monster is there. He's there somewhere because he's the one who pulled the, hit the switch so that all the lights went out. But when she went into that room before before the lights go out, and she went into that room, and
Oh,
that decaying woman in the bathtub. Oh my God. That was like another hit, like on the it doesn't need to be complicated to be like terrifying hit list.
Right.
Like, you know what I mean? Like that was enough. I never even caught that scene until so many years ago. Because it's like the quality, it's like it's so dark in that room.
Mm-hmm.
And it goes, and if you like turn around to get your, to get your glass of water or whatever, or if you put your face into your popcorn bag, like you miss it.
Mm-hmm.
But after I realized what the hell was going on, I just was like, oh my God. And you see her hand shaking, pobrecita, poor thing. Her hand is
Yeah.
shaking with the gun, and like you're seeing it in the green light, and oh my God, it's too
Yeah.
much.
Yeah. It's another one of those where it doesn't have to be like over the top
Nope.
gore fest, but if placed correctly.
Uh-huh.
And,
Right when she goes down into the hell dungeon,
mm-hmm.
she sees the disgusting porquerias of
Mm-hmm.
the woman in the tub. Oh my God. And it's like she's not there for an hour. He doesn't lock her in
Right.
that room. It's just she sees it, and then any like semblance of like self-control starts going right out the window. She's
Right.
just trying her best. I mean, she is the bravest person in the FBI. I think that Jack Crawford would have been like he would have like pushed himself as hard as she did to keep going to try to save Catherine and to try to
Yeah.
nail, I don't think anybody else, not a
No.
single person. And I think that's a quality that Hannibal sees in her. She really is trying. She's trying so hard. She wants it so badly. She wants to like, do this noble job that her father, did. And he's a cop, and he gets that sense from her. I think that's
Right.
why he likes her so much. And I think with Barney is like the same thing. He kind of he
Mm-hmm.
can sense that like he's just this dude who's not judging on him. He's like
Right.
kind of like let God judge him. Like I just need to take care of him. I need to make sure he's all right.
Yeah.
And I wanted to bring up two things. One is I love how much Jonathan Demme really brought like he really brought a respect and a practicality to the movie, to Clarice's story, to like how Jodie Foster, kind of revealed Clarice throughout the movie
Mm-hmm.
in such a way that you like kind of had like no doubt, like yeah, of course, like she's in the FBI, she's so brave and she's so smart and she's clever and she's earnest too, which makes her special. But it's like as a female at that time, that was a really big deal. It's still a big deal
Mm-hmm.
today.
Yeah.
Law enforcement is still by and large a boys club, especially the federal government. um and I think at that time it was so special that he was able to really bring that out. There's so many like there's like a few hints, right, that we get about her like love life or whatever, but
Yeah.
he doesn't let it go there. Like he brings it up because of course she's Jodie Foster, she's gorgeous and she's super smart, and of course men around her would make comments or be attracted to her, but he doesn't like let the story go there at all. He's
Right.
just like nope. And when he does with the two bug doctors, like with the guy who asks her out for cheeseburgers and beer, like it's very
Yeah.
charming, and you see that he's not being disrespectful, and she kind of likes him too, so it's kind of cute, but that doesn't you don't see anything else about it. Like the
Right.
story is that's how a man would be treated in this story.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's so special. The other thing I wanted to ask you about was apparently at that time, um, and both of us were so little that we wouldn't have, kind of been awares. But like the what we now know as the LGBTQ community back then, I'm not sure what it was called. Maybe just the gay community. I'm not sure.
Mm-hmm.
They were very upset about the portrayal of someone who is trans, um, and how Ted Levine and how Jonathan Demme more broadly, like made their really twisted serial killer, a trans person.
Mm-hmm.
And the people on the movie, fought hard back against it, just saying like, listen, we've got nothing but respect for the trans community, but it's not about him being a trans. In fact, it's even stated in the movie. Lecter says like he thinks he wants to be a woman. He thinks he wants to be a transsexual. That's what they used to say instead of transgendered. But he's not. He's not that at all. And she says, and Clarice says, I know, like I've read up on it. They're not violent people. He and Lecter's like, no, he just wants to get away from what he is. He wants to believe he's transsexual, but he's not. And what do you think about all of that? Because I mean, we're even in the 90s, people made noise. Obviously every community is going to make noise for if they think their community is being disrespected. Right. But even through now, did this movie inform you at all when you watched it? Which I'm guessing you watched it kind of on the young side, because I know I did.
Yeah.
Did it inform your thinking about trans people, or sort of like people whose gender identity or sexual identity was different from yours, and like, what do you think about this movie and like placing it in today's context?
For me, it made me ask questions, especially when I got older and watched it again. It made me ask questions. In terms of, like all the backlash that they received, I felt like they were very respectful in the film. However, I'm a heterosexual male. It doesn't matter what my opinion is about how it made someone in the trans community feel. So for me, it's like if I had a friend, which I do, and I may actually ask this question, who is trans, say, how did this movie make you feel? If you've watched it, how did this portrayal make you feel? I thought with some of the dialogue and things that were said, I feel intentionally, I thought that the actors, the director, they were being very respectful to not ascribe a certain set of behaviors to a certain population. Because, I mean, honestly, the 90s were rough when it came, and 80s too, even still tough. But especially then, it was tough for, people who were, non-binary, who, weren't gender conforming. Honestly, like even then they couldn't be those things because it had to be created, and people, it took such a long time to embrace that we're all human beings, and people should have the ability to live their life as they see, fit. So I thought that they were respectful. How it would play today, that is a really good question, because I don't know. I think there would still be backlash, honestly. I think that they would have to do something a little bit different with the character. I hope we never have to have this conversation, because I hope this movie has never gone through the recycle bin.
No, I don't think it ever will.
I hope not. But, I think it would be, I think if someone were to do it, they'd have to go to people like, leaders of the community and say, okay, we're bringing this back. This is the direction that we want to go. How do we best respect your community, but at the same time tell the story? So I mean, for me, it, like I said, it created a lot of questions, but I thought that, generally they were respectful, and intentional about saying certain things. What about you?
This movie actually did reinforce some like negative um, feelings.
Mm-hmm.
Again, not that it matters. I'm a straight, you know, hetero woman, but it did. It had me spooked about transgendered people. Um, so I can kind of see, like, what the argument is. I don't think that. I think that it's kind of one of those things where it just keeps going in circles, like around and around, because um, I get the argument about like it's a portrayal and a mainstream blockbuster movie of a person who is transgendered, and that screen time is going to influence what a lot of people think that lifestyle is like. um and so they're not wrong about that. you
Right.
know they're not wrong about that. But it goes back to, yeah, but if you're watching the movie, you understand, because the other characters so clearly say that this person isn't actually a transsexual, to use
Mm-hmm.
1991's words. um they're not actually trans, that they're a serial killer who is adopting the identity of a trans person to make, to kind of make sense of these, monstrous urges. And then that goes right back to, like, exactly, you're showing on the big screen
Mm-hmm.
this, dynamic actor who is portraying a trans person serial killer, and that's not right. So it kind of, for me, it kind of goes in this endless loop. And all I
Yeah.
know is that it definitely did reinforce some scary feelings, about people who dressed as the opposite gender. And that really didn't go away entirely until I actually met and befriended people who were trans. And I was like, there's nothing scary about this at all. They're
Right.
just a human being. Like, what, but I had those unfortunately, I had those ideas. I was never like, I was little, so I wasn't like, rude about it to anybody. And
Right.
even as an adult, like, you don't like make it into a hostile thing. It's just kind of scared me, honestly. And like, I would always think, I mean, I'm the living embodiment of why they have a solid argument. I would think of the Silence of the Lambs, you know what I mean? And other things I've seen
Yeah.
that are freaky that involve trans people. And so then, that kind of feeds into itself. And then um, when a couple of trans people befriended me, I should say, it that totally went away, and I totally don't have that issue anymore. I mean, that's what they say, like, exposure is so important. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, with, like, studies of racism and, gender inequality and stuff. It's like, it's so much about being exposed to people that are different from you. Um, and like, I'll own up always to, not being a perfect person.
Mm-hmm.
And that was definitely one of the things I was not perfect about. But I learned, and that's what we're here to do.
Exactly.
So I think that's kind of an open-ended question. And like you, I hope to God I don't see how anyone would ever approve for this movie to be remade. If you guys out there have any ideas on that or thoughts about that, like a reboot on Silence of the Lambs, send us an email to movies-to-be-murdered-by@gmail.com, or leave a comment underneath our YouTube page. Um, I just can't. I don't think it won 5 Academy Awards and BAFTAs. Like, I don't think
Yeah.
anyone's going to need to remake this. They're making plenty of money still, like, off of, each edition that comes out. It got swallowed up into the Criterion Collection. I mean, this movie is still a moneymaker.
Right.
Um, so all in all, Jeff, Special Agent Watson, I should say, um, how many headstones are you giving this tasty little Silence of the Lambs? And would you get a tattoo of anything about this movie, or the ink test was, would you get a tattoo?
So headstones, that's easy. 5.
Mm.
It's a classic. Um, the ink test is tricky because to me, this is and to a lot of people, this is a very disturbing movie. Um, and the subject matter doesn't make it where it's like, I really want to have this on my body forever. So I would probably say no. Although the mask is one of those masks where it's like, okay, as a horror fan, if you're looking, if you're a mask person, you're like, okay, well, that's kind of, that's scary, it's creepy, that kind of thing. But yeah, I don't think I would. So yeah, so headstones and ink test for you.
I think you should get, like, like when he's in the whole get up and strapped to that board, and he's got
Yeah.
that, like, but he's got like the kind of fuller hockey mask face, right?
Yeah.
I think you should get that, except have it be your, like, head. Like, do you know what I mean? You should get yourself, like, that would be awesome. It's a good one. It's a good idea.
That's a good idea.
I would also give it 5 headstones. No, like, just easy. It's a perfect movie. This movie's perfect. Literally, everything about it is perfect. And would I get a tattoo of some imagery of the movie? I mean, like you said, it's a really dark movie. I mean, we were talking a little bit before the show about this, how it's got an intensity that just doesn't let up. You get a few cracks of humor, like with the bug guys, but that's like how far into the movie? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or when she's in the elevator, like at the beginning with all the guys in the red shirts and she's so short and they're all so tall. Like that's funny, But this movie is not let up. So I don't know that I need, like, look, I've already got that intensity, like, in my blood. I know you do too. I don't know. I mean, that the drawing that he does of her, that Hannibal Lecter does of Clarice, where she looks so beautiful and she looks almost like the Virgin Mary, and she's holding the little lamb in her arms. That's it's really tender drawing that he does of her. And if I were a braver person, maybe I'd get that, but I'm just not. I just can't. I have too many things running in my head already. I don't need it on my body. Yeah, see, I know you're the same. You don't need it. Yeah, eye to eye. That's why we're brother and sister, brother. You get it now? Yeah, so no. I'm gonna say no. I know I've seen a lot of people get the death's head moth tattooed. I follow like a bazillion tattoo shops all over the world on my Instagram, on my personal Instagram page, and it's like the death's head moth is like never, it just doesn't, it's like the snake. People just are fascinated with those two images and they get them tattooed all the time, and I'm like, geez, like, really? Like, that's intense, like, what are you calling on death for? Or what are you calling on the serpent for?
Exactly.
What's that about? So you heard it here first, people. We are horror movie people who are not down with tattoos that are too dark. We like to keep it moving. Like to, interesting, intense, sure, but it doesn't need to be dark. We don't need to summon Satan. We're not about that. We're not about that life.
Not at all.
So, so people, please, we are begging you. Your two friendly neighborhood movie special agents, Jessie Drew and Jeff Watson, are imploring you, if you haven't seen Silence of the Lambs, to please watch it. If you have seen it, watch it again. Watch it again. You like movies? Out there, people, you like movies? All right, we'll believe you when we've heard that you've watched this again. Because this movie is incredible and needs to be, if you're a movie lover, this needs to be in your lexicon. This should be something that you could just like drop references about like crazy.
Yeah.
So,
That's it.
yep, that's it. And we will see you next week when Summer Blockbuster Month wraps up with Wes Craven's Scream. Boing. Yep, we're doing Scream, people. Get ready. Get your masks ready.
There you
Get your
go.
goofballs. This movie was no goofballs. That movie's full of goofballs. So we're
Yes.
going to be back home on our home planet of Planet Goofball.
Yes. And I will tell the story of how I went to a dance dressed as Ghostface.
I can't wait to hear that. And I will tell no stories of the kind because I never did anything that funny. So, all right, people. Thank you for listening so much. I know we ran a little late, but we appreciate you guys. Thank you so much. Have fun. Movies always. Peace.
Peace out.
Game over.